it as well. And it's also a time-tested, from
Right.
from Thoreau to, the beginning of time.
Yeah, and the funny thing is it never worked for me in the past because the focus, I think when I'm doing mathematics, it does need, at least for me personally, to be that kind of non-distracted, total focus on what's going on.
As a writer, it's a very romantic notion, too. Like to go to the woods in a cabin, that's what's up, right?
Yeah, right,
that's what everybody wants to do.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The only thing that's missing is whiskey. You're supposed to get drunk out there. Did you get drunk out there?
I didn't. I had the dogs, and it's just, like I said, I hardly ever drink, But it was an unusual creative experience, which to me opened up a different way of going about trying to create things in the world.
As you write more and more books, do you find it to be more and more difficult, or do you find it to be easier?
Well, my early books were all focused on trying to bring scientific ideas out to the general public. The Elegant Universe was about string theory, Fabric of the Cosmos, Space and Time. Hidden Reality is about multiple universes. And so in that role, I'm basically trying to translate from the cutting-edge research into ordinary human language so that people who don't want to go to graduate school can get the basic idea of what's going on. And this book is a very different proposition. I feel like I've moved in a significantly different direction through this book because, yes, there's science, entropy, evolution, the history of the universe from the beginning to the end, but the focus on why we humans do what we do, why we tell stories, the emergence of language, why we tell myths, why we engage in religious experience, why creative expression is so important to us. This felt like it was drawing upon things I've been thinking about for decades, but never put into writing. So it was a harder exercise than anything that I did before because it was a different exercise. But in the end, one that I felt was even more gratifying because it was making clear why these ideas matter. As opposed to just trying to tickle the brain of the reader, I'm trying to actually, if you will, touch the heart and soul of the reader. And that's something which, if it's successful, feels very gratifying.
I would imagine that would be very hard to end, to feel how, to put the cover on it and to go, that's it.
Yeah, right, it is. But that's true almost with all books. The famous adage is that you never finish a book, you abandon them. That's all that ever happens. And that was true in spades in this particular case because the subject was so big.
Yeah.
And you can always imagine going further in this direction or enhancing that description. But at some point you recognize that life is an ongoing process, and a book is ultimately a snapshot of where the author was at the moment that the book was written. And that, to me, is really what happens here. This is a snapshot of my view of the human condition set against the cosmological unfolding.
And how much of your perceptions of these things has evolved, as an educator and as a scientist and as a person who's in the public eye? How much of your perceptions on these ideas have changed over the course of your career?
Huge. I think I was a very hard-nosed science thinker when I started out. I think part of this may have been I became a professor at a relatively young age. I think I was 27 when I got my first faculty job, so many of the graduate students were the same age as me. So I think I felt the need to have a very rigid scientific outlook on the world because of that. And as I've gotten older, that has changed. And my willingness to entertain a broader range of thought and experience and ways of being has absolutely grown. The other thing that's had a vast and vital impact on me are students. For 30 years, the only thing I really taught was technical physics courses, quantum mechanics or relativity, thermodynamics. And what do you do there? You're at the blackboard, you're putting equations up there, you're trying to get